Today we're going to focus on right and left side bend and how rotation with your upper body works together with the right and left side bend to help you basically just become a better ball striker. Once you mold both of these together, you will notice that a lot of the swing faults that you might be struggling with start to fall away, and some of the swing ideas, maybe like shallowing the club, become more possible by watching this video. So make sure you stay tuned because we're going to talk about right, left side bend and how to turn our shoulders to get a bigger shoulder turn, all that great stuff that we want to see in a golf swing. And then at the end of the video, we're going to focus on basically your left and your right wrist to see if they're flexible enough. Just basically a small little bonus so you can see if you have enough flexion in your wrist to kind of help you have that forward press to hit the ball just a little bit cleaner. So that's just a little bonus that we're going to do at the very end of the video. And if you're brand new to our channel today, make sure you subscribe, hit the bell button. You'll see our future videos. Give us a thumbs up if you enjoy the content today. And if you have any comments or questions, you can put those down below. The first thing we're going to talk about is right and left side bend or right and left side tilt, whatever you want to call it. So when you set up to a golf ball, you automatically are bent over in your posture. And for you to stay in posture, you have to have a tilt happen. Basically, your left side has to have some bend into it for you to stay in your posture. Okay, there's a few things that have to happen for you to maintain this. Okay, and we're also going to cover like the two common faults that we come across. But first, we're just going to talk about what you need to be doing to make sure that you can maintain that tilt. So when you set up to it, all right, you're going to feel like your shoulders turn. All right, so if my ball is down here on the ground, all right, when you turn to the top, the end of your club is just going to feel like it points just out in front of it. It's not going to point at the ball. It's not going to point level with the ground. Okay, so you're going to feel like this happens. Okay, a few things you're going to have the feeling. You're going to feel like your left side feels like it almost compresses, squishes, whatever you want to call it. All right, and your right side is going to feel like it extends or feels long. Okay, the other thing that has to happen for you to maintain this is your right hip needs to feel like it goes deeper. All right, we've talked about in the past, a lot of professional golfers, when they get to the top of the backswing, their right butt cheek basically goes deeper. If there was a wall there, it would be pressing deeper into that wall. And that's because they are having some tilts and some bends there. So their right hip goes deeper and they're able to stay in that posture. Okay, some of the faults that we see is when anybody's weight gets to their toes, all right, they tend to turn flat, right? And when the hips are turning flat like this, it's not going deep, so you're automatically going to lose that tilt. The other thing is you might get deep, but your shoulders might turn flat, right? A lot of the times people's shoulders turn flat. It's just because they lack flexibility. They're trying to get a bigger shoulder turn. So when you stand up straight, it's really easy to turn your shoulders quite a bit. But when you're bent over in the golf posture, it becomes a little bit harder, especially if you're restricted with like your thoracic spine's kind of tight. So they try to get that big turn, but then they stand up because then they can turn more. Okay, so those are the ways that you can stay in that tilt into your backswing. Make sure your butt cheek's doing the right thing. Feel like you're bending from your left side. If you have no idea what it feels like, just feel like your left arm goes down to your kneecap. Grab your golf club, put it across your shoulders, so you kind of feel like this, which is weird. Okay, but then you just put your turn into it, and that's what it feels like. That could be completely different for a lot of people out there, right? And it's much better for you to have a shorter backswing, but to stay in your tilt than to have a long backswing and stand up. So when you tend to lose your posture, right, or your shoulders go flat, you can't maintain that tilt, usually your body does something to try to get back into a tilt. The left shoulder tends to dive. And we see a lot of this where the club comes down steep. And we know that over the top move, right? That's very common with that motion. The other thing that we see is when somebody goes flat, all right, they might stay flat and throw the club over the top trying to get back to the golf ball. Again, that's like a big death move. That is a lot of shanks, a lot of slices, just really bad golf shots. Okay, and finally, And this is some of the better players who lose their tilt. All right, they will keep their body closed. All right, and they stay flat. The club drops really behind them, and they get stuck. So the bottom of the swing becomes behind the ball. They hit a lot of thins. Irons are really hard for them, and drivers might be a little bit easier, but it becomes very hard to be consistent that way. So make sure you work on staying in that tilt. Another common fault that comes along with tilting is doing it too much. We take it to an extreme. So we see players turn underneath too much. And whenever the head drops down like that, it is going to rise up. And so you're going to be somebody who early extends a lot. Okay, what happens is when players tilt too much, is they tend to reverse tilt, which puts a lot of stress on your lower back, and it makes the chance of being consistent almost impossible. The ball is going to go everywhere because the club face is flying everywhere, the body's moving everywhere, you have lots of moving parts, so it becomes very hard. So you want to make sure you're one of those two people. So if you ever tape yourself from down the line like this, put your head in a circle. The head should stay in the circle. All right, shouldn't go forward. If anything, at impact, it'll go backwards just a little bit if you're clearing your hips properly. All right, but into the backswing and basically back down to P5 here, your head should be staying in that circle. It shouldn't be rising above it, going out beyond it, or dropping down below it. Okay, so that's an easy way for you to just really check if you're staying in your posture, because if you are, if your head stays there, most likely your shoulders are turning perfectly. Because we just want your body to basically, so from right here, very easy to stay on top of your spine, and we are just trying to achieve that exact same feeling of just staying on top of your spine rather than changing your spine position when you're playing. Now we're going to talk about shoulder turn, because this needs to match up with it, right? We all want to hit the ball farther, and by turning your shoulders, you'll hit the ball farther, you'll be more powerful, and this will also help you stay in your tilt if you do it correctly. So first things first, I don't want you to think about your shoulders actually turning. That's just something that we always refer to it. I want you to imagine your rib cage, okay? Your rib cage as far as turning, right? We need the rib cage to drive the club back, to move the club back. The other thing I want you to think about is either the left shoulder moving across your body or your right shoulder moving behind your head, kind of like you're pulling something behind your head. All right, either one of those two things, because we want that head to feel like it moves just a little bit to the right. It doesn't have to move a whole lot, all right, but moves across your body. Right shoulder gets behind this, right, because we want to get a big shoulder turn. You see a lot of players who start their swing by just pushing their arms across their chest. It's not really a shoulder turn, that's just an arm motion. Okay, when we want to get rid of that, we want to be more fluid, more powerful, all those good things by how we turn our shoulders. The other thing you need to do to help you turn your shoulders is what your chin does. So if you watch my chin when I get to the top, if I don't move it, all right, it restricts how much I can turn. It gets in the way of basically my left shoulder. So your chin should move a little bit to the right to help you get a bigger shoulder turn. And you'll see this in a lot of pros also. So when you turn to the top, my chin moves this way, and it helps get out of the way so I can have a full shoulder turn. A lot of us focus so much on keeping our head still that it actually restricts how much we can turn. Now, if you are doing all this stuff and you just feel like your backswing still isn't big enough, we're going to need to get a little bit more help from our hips to help us turn. So instead of playing that left foot straight, I want you to flare it open a little bit. It's going to help your hips turn a little bit more. And so when you put those two together, you move your head and move your rib cage correctly, you will get a fuller, more powerful, easier shoulder rib turn to the top of your backswing. And once we do all those things, all right, and we stay in our nice little tilt, we don't lose it or anything like that. All right, make sure that hip moves backwards. All right, hip move backwards, left side feels like it's crunched. Okay, and that makes it much easier when we have that little tilt. We have just that little drop with our right arm and the shallow it. Okay, we don't want that move. We don't want that move. Just make it really easy to get it here. A little shallow move, and then it goes into impact. So hopefully by now you know how to tilt into your backswing. And the cool thing is if you do a lot of these things correctly, when it comes into impact, now you tilt the opposite way. So your left side feels like it extends, your right side feels like it starts to scrunch. Okay, so we want to be able to know what to tilt, but this is mostly backswing, so just make sure you stay on posture, move your hip correctly, move your shoulders, your ribs, and your chin correctly, and you'll be able to stay in that posture. Stay away from the toes, stay away from going too much to the heels, right? Just like all the videos I posted out there. And this will help you stay in your posture in your backswing. Okay, make it easier for you hopefully not to swing over the top by going flat and swinging over the top, or not by tilting and having a reverse tilt, because that's definitely something that we don't want to see in your golf swing. So now, how do you check and see if you have enough flexibility in your shoulder or in your wrist? It's super simple, all right? You're going to take a 6 or a 7 iron, and you're just going to take it to the end of the club, and you're going to flex down, okay? And this is, I think, is an 8 iron, right? So it should match the hanging toe when it goes down. And then when it goes up, you just want to look for the opposite. Okay, it's pretty simple. And you check that with both sides. The other thing you can check is just see if you're basically strong enough to go over like that. That's not too hard. All right, but basically we're looking for flexion and we're looking for extension to make sure that you have enough. Now don't do it with like open hands, closed fist, down and up. You'll feel it in your form when it's down. And some people will struggle with this. Some of you won't have the flexibility to do that, but it's pretty simple. You just have to work on that drill alone until it feels like there's less of it there, right? And it'll go away. So thanks for watching today. Hope this video helps you play better.